Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
And I'm Sylvia Perez. Eyewitness News at 5 is next. Tonight, 2 sailors are killed after fire breaks out aboard a Navy destroyer. Also, a group of Cook County judges go on trial before the voters.
Also coming up, Oscar winner Jeremy Irons stars in a new artistic film. Roger Ebert has a review. And it's batter up for the White Sox. We'll have a live report from Florida on their first day of spring training. Those stories and much more next on Eyewitness News.
The gruesome murder of Suzanne Degnan, a trial by press, and William Herron's confession. After 46 years in prison, he still claims innocence. Tonight at 6.
Meet the real heroes of Flight 232, Monday at 10. This is Eyewitness News with Sylvia Perez and Jim Rosenfield. Andy Avalos with weather. Brad Palmer with sports. And the Eyewitness News team.
Good evening, everyone. 2 American sailors were killed and 4 others injured when fire broke out on a Navy destroyer this morning. The ship was identified as the USS Dahlgren. It happened as the Dahlgren was conducting routine operations about 240 miles off the coast of North Carolina. Afterwards, the ship steamed toward port under its own power. These pictures of the Dahlgren were taken earlier. Naval authorities said the fire broke out in the engine room and was put out after only 20 minutes. The Dahlgren, which is based in Norfolk, is a 31-year-old guided missile destroyer that carries 400 officers and crew members. None of the injured was hurt seriously. The names of the dead and injured have been withheld until relatives are notified.
We're not sure exactly how it started, but it was basically an oil fire.
The Navy expects the ship to return to port by midday tomorrow.
The presidential campaign is heating up. Republican challenger Pat Buchanan took his message to the South today. He is hoping to build on the momentum from his very strong showing in New Hampshire. We have more details from Judy Fleming.
We want Pat! We want Pat!
What about the support here?
I think it looks good. It looks a lot stronger after New Hampshire, too.
Calling South Carolina one of his most important southern campaign states, the presidential candidate visited textile workers in Neasley. With him came a fanfare of national media.
One of the objectives of this campaign is to bring to the attention what is happening to these kinds of jobs in America.
Buchanan walked inside for a tour of the Alice manufacturing plant. Textile workers looked on as the candidate made a popular promise.
Now this industry, textiles and apparel, are the largest employers of women and minorities in the United States, any single industry. And so this is the issue you got to take up to Washington, D.C.
Buchanan told crowds about his plan to secure the Carolina textile industry by coming down hard on imports. It's what these folks have been waiting to hear.
This is to the President of the United States. A little premature.
We believe if Pat Buchanan can win, America can win.
I definitely think he can beat President Bush.
Buchanan found more support
We want Pat.
among another group of fans at the airport.
Mr. Pat, welcome to...
Meantime, in a radio address today, President Bush said the economic bill being drafted by Congress is a scheme that makes no sense.
Democratic leaders refused to submit my plan for a quick, clean vote. They chose politics over duty. They huddled behind closed doors and played games with the tax code. They put out one plan one day, another plan the next. Their proposal will increase the deficit. It borrows $30 billion to pay for a tiny temporary tax cut.
On the Democratic side, the leading candidates continued their criticism of President Bush's policies while campaigning this weekend. Frontrunner Paul Tsongas said since he started doing well in the polls, he's become known as Darth Vader, the sinister villain in Star Wars, but said we should all remember, in his words, that George Bush is the enemy. Senator Tsongas paid his respects to former President Jimmy Carter today in Plains, Georgia. Georgia hosts the first primary in the South on March the 3rd. Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, who was in Maryland stumping for votes, blasted President Bush, saying he has abandoned the South. And here in Illinois, leaders of a campaign to draft New York Governor Mario Cuomo for the Democratic ticket are ignoring his request that they abandon their efforts. They argue that Cuomo remains the strongest candidate to defeat George Bush in November.
Back here in Chicago, on the west side today, a group of judges went on trial before the voters. The judges campaigning for re-election took to the bench. They were taking part in a Meet the Voters forum in the 24th Ward. As Bob Petty reports, more than 20 judges attended the forum in search of political support.
The judges are already sitting on the bench. This meeting was part of their re-election efforts. They campaigned for votes like any other candidate running for any other political office. The judges are part of nearly 250 judicial candidates running in next month's primary election. The forum allowed West Side voters to be the judges, in this case to learn more about the candidates and to question them about their positions.
I believe in following the law, but I do believe that justice should be tempered with mercy on certain occasions.
Once you put on that black robe, we can't talk to you. This is about the last time we see any of these judges.
The group of judges represents all level of the judicial branch of government, ranging from traffic court to the Illinois Supreme Court. Here, the judges were seen not behind the bench in flowing black robes, but as political candidates. Like good politicians, they wore their campaign buttons, handed out campaign literature, and talked about themselves.
Never in 173 years has a woman been elected to this court. So that if I am elected, I will, in effect, make history.
Is that it's important for us and them to get to know each other so they can really feel for us and our community and the kinds of things that we're going through.
Organizers of this political forum say, in addition to giving voters here the opportunity to judge the judges, this is also part of a continuing effort to reach out to all branches of government, not only for better understandings, but also for more give and take.
Sponsors of the forum are hopeful that out of this meeting, judges will have a better understanding of some of the concerns facing voters, and perhaps in the process, a better understanding of some of those coming before them in their courtrooms. Bob Petty, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
This was the 24th Ward's second judges forum in the last 2 weeks.
An Aurora man has been arrested and charged with attempted murder after he barricaded himself inside his house and fired shots toward police officers and his wife. The policemen were responding to a domestic disturbance call at the home of Larry Townsend this morning. They were talking to his wife in the driveway when Townsend allegedly began firing shotgun blasts in their direction. They took cover behind their squad car, which was damaged. Townsend apparently kept shooting, but his fire was not returned. Although he threatened to do so, police say Townsend did not harm his one-year-old twin sons who were in the house. After talking to a policeman on the phone, Townsend surrendered peacefully. No injuries were reported. Authorities still have no explanation for the incident. Townsend will appear in bond court tomorrow.
A 9-year-old boy who was found stabbed and apparently left for dead behind a water filtration plant is in fair condition this evening. Authorities found Keon Foster in the lake on the southeast side after receiving an anonymous tip from a person who reported a body in the lake. The child told police he was forced into a car by someone who stabbed him in the chest and threw him into the water. Police have no suspects or motive in the incident.
A group called Mothers Against Guns and Gangs protested against continuing gang violence today. The catalyst for the protest was the death of 18-month-old Michael Scott in a drive-by shooting earlier this week. The group met at the site of the shooting where the child was killed while sitting in a van. In memory of the child, green ribbons were draped on trees, and the group, along with Reverend Paul Hall, demanded increased action against gang violence. A 70-year-old man was killed in a fire that destroyed his West Side apartment early this morning. The victim has been identified as David Tate. The fire was apparently caused by a space heater that either malfunctioned or was simply too close to a pile of rubbish in Tate's apartment. The building housed an abandoned storefront and a 2-story apartment building. There were no other reported injuries.
A labor dispute continues between the Teamsters Union and the Pennsylvania Trucking Company. Union members have been picketing here in Chicago and all over the Midwest. It began on Friday when union members began their strike at the loading company used by the National Rail Freight Network Conrail. The dispute between the Teamsters and the Pennsylvania truck lines is over. Proposed cuts in wages and time off. Chrysler Chairman Lee Iacocca was hospitalized this weekend suffering from a pulled chest muscle. Doctors say Iacocca did a little too much exercising while on vacation in Palm Springs. He went to the hospital after pulling the muscle and experiencing chest pains. He's expected to be released sometime today. Iacocca has been chairman of Chrysler since 1987 and plans on retiring at the end of the year.
When we come back, Andy Avalos tells us how long this spring-like weather will last. And later, A Smoky Tale of Intrigue starring Jeremy Irons. Film critic Roger Ebert has a review.
And the star of today's show is the sun. It came out today and people also decided to come out. A lot of people outside enjoying the nice weather.
What'd you see them doing today?
They were rollerblading outside today.
But you didn't join them?
Oh, no, I didn't. I was doing other things.
I see.
She's still
It
in
looked
training.
like fun, though.
Maybe tomorrow we can all rollerblade.
Oh, sure.
Another nice day for us tomorrow. Not nearly as ideal as today, but this was a real winner. Absolutely. For the end of February, I think we'll all take this. Let's see how we did officially on the scoreboard. Today's high temperature was 50 degrees. That is well above the average of 36. Last night's low only down to 34. Last year, as balmy as it was at 44, it was cool compared to today. However, as nice as today was, we're not even close to the record high, which is 68, 14 below for the record low. And your sunset this evening will be in about 20 minutes or so. It takes place this evening at 5:32. Well, we have cooled off a bit already in the last couple of hours from those highs of today. 38 at O'Hare into the lakefront, Midway at 42, a northeast wind at 12, falling barometer and humidity at 85%. As we take a look at some of your favorite cities around the Midwest at 5 o'clock, readings are very comfortable. There's a warm front just about right here, and it's not too hard to pick out. In fact, most of the air to the north is in the 20s and 30s, and to the south, 50s and 60s. We had a comfortable day, but temperatures are dropping right now. As we go to the satellite picture, you can see that there's a little break in the clouds right here through a good portion of northern Illinois, which, of course, is where we are. So we had lots of sunshine, clouds to the north and primarily to the south, and they have filled in a little bit now, so we'll call it partly cloudy. So as far as precipitation goes, we'll look at that. There have been some light showers just to the south today through Will and Kankakee County into northwestern Indiana, but these have been relatively light and have now dissipated. So what does that mean if you're going out and about this evening? Well, we won't have any weather woes to worry about. You got to love it for this time of year. Hazy, pleasantly cool. Temperatures between 38 and 42 right now will drop into the 30s as the evening wears on. On the national scene, lots of clouds showing storms erupting into the Gulf Coast. Another system back to the west working in this direction, both of which will have an effect on us in the next 48 hours. Tomorrow's forecast map shows the clouds have increased throughout the area, so a much cloudier day tomorrow than today. Snows into the plains will be working their way in this direction, but we'll get rain first. That'll be tomorrow night into Monday, and then snow into Tuesday. Tomorrow's temperatures, though, albeit a bit cooler than today, still very mild with readings in the 40s. Forecast for the remainder of tonight, partly cloudy and cool, some patchy dense fog, 36 for the overnight low. Tomorrow, lots of clouds, but still a mild day, a high of 46 and about 40 at the lakefront. Tomorrow night, breezy and cool, some light rain late and 36, and then cloudy and cooler with more rain on Monday with a high of 40. The 5-day outlook shows that Monday night into Tuesday, that rain could change to snow. We'll have to watch that situation, but another nice day tomorrow.
50 degrees, I had no idea.
Yeah, it was a mild.
Great, yeah. Thanks, Andy.
Feels great. When we come back, a new film from the director of Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Roger Ebert has a review. Later in sports, Cub pitcher Danny Jackson tries to rebound from a disastrous season. Brad Palmer reports live from Arizona. Kafka is a new thriller starring Oscar winner Jeremy Irons. Film critic Roger Ebert has a review on this strange and suspenseful tale.
The Czechoslovakian writer Franz Kafka made a whole world out of his novels and short stories about alienated people who were totally cut off from the society around them, who felt that they were being manipulated by events far outside their control and their understanding. And that's also the starting point for the new movie Kafka, which stars Jeremy Irons in the title role as a bureaucrat in this scene whose boss, Alec Guinness, gives him some unsolicited advice.
I understand you fancy yourself as a writer.
In a small way.
You should find a more athletic hobby. Put some color in your cheeks.
Kafka's best friend dies in the film, and the police say it was a suicide. But Kafka is not so sure. Attempting to find the police files that will tell the real story about the fate of his friend, Kafka first goes into an enormous bureaucracy where there are files from floor to ceiling. It's a pretty effective scene, and then later he's trapped on an elevator that leads him inside the Secret Service headquarters of this strange country where he lives. Most of the movie is in black and white, but once Kafka gets inside the secret headquarters, it switches to color and begins to look like a mad scientist film. Kafka is the second film directed by the brilliant young filmmaker Steven Soderbergh, whose debut film was Sex, Lies, and Videotape. No two movies could be more different. In fact, Kafka is a real disappointment coming from Soderbergh. It seems to be a mishmash of all kinds of different styles. Part of it is science fiction, Part of it seems to be gothic, part of it seems to be sort of a pretentious art film, and none of it really seems to work, maybe because Kafka, by definition, does not make an interesting character. He was always more acted upon than acting. I give this movie 2 stars, and I'm Roger Ebert.
Did he mention it was strange?
Yeah, I think he thought it was strange.
It's pretty strange.
When we come back, the White Sox officially open up camp. We'll have a live report from Florida and from Arizona, where the Cubs are also springing back into action.
Also, the Blackhawks battle Detroit in the first of 4 key games between the 2 rivals. Rose, boy, we are everywhere today. Arizona, Florida, here in Chicago.
Spanning the globe.
That's
and Tim Weigel will be here tomorrow. We've got everybody working today.
Overtime.
That's right. Start off with hockey first. Hawks went into this afternoon's game against the Detroit Red Wings with much to prove. They are 12 points behind Detroit in the Norris Division and tied for second with the St. Louis Blues. Now, with 4 games remaining against the Red Wings this year, the Hawks will find out just how good they are. Now, Ray Shepard put the hurt on the Hawks early, getting his 33rd goal of the season late in the first period after an assist from Sergei Fedorov, giving the Red Wings a 1-0 lead. Kevin Miller scored early in the second period, giving Detroit a 2-0 advantage. Mike Keenan saw the Hawks' offense sputter once more. The Hawks were 1-6 on the power play. Coming up, their only goal, Jeremy Roenick scoring his 43rd of the year with less than 12 minutes to go in the third period, cutting Detroit's lead to 1. Tim Cheveldae stopped 28 shots. Detroit wins their 5th straight game and 5th straight from the Hawks. They are 16 games over 500 for the first time in 22 years. Well, this afternoon is the official opening of training camp for the Chicago White Sox. Pitchers and catchers. Attendance at the camp is mandatory, and the rest of the players will show up next week. Expectations are high for the White Sox this year, and on hand for the first day of camp is our own Mark Shanowski. Take it away down in Sarasota, Mark.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. You know, it's not surprising the enthusiasm level is very high here at camp in Sarasota. After all, a lot of people are expecting the White Sox to dethrone the Minnesota Twins as champions of the American League West this season. Pitchers and catchers reported for the first workout this morning as Gene Lamont and his staff began the process of trying to build a championship ball club. Some familiar sights and sounds as the White Sox open another spring training camp. First-year manager Gene Lamont was probably as anxious as anyone to get camp rolling, and he was impressed with what he saw on day 1.
Looks like everybody's real enthusiastic. You know, it's been, I thought for a while, I wondered if I'd ever get a managing job, and then I began to wonder if spring training would ever start. So it's exciting for me. I think the players are glad to be here. They see guys they haven't seen maybe for 4 or 5 months, and I thought it went real smoothly.
You mentioned the enthusiasm. It does really seem like these guys are fired up. They sense the chance to do something special this year. Are the coaches kind of caught up in all that as well?
Well, I think so. I think you're caught up in any time of spring training. You're glad that it comes, and you look forward to it for quite a while. But I can just see the way they run the drills that, they feel that, they've fallen a little short the last couple of years, and they know it's a big step that they have to make, but, that's what they're striving for.
Gene Lamont knows there's a lot of expectations in his first year. It's important for the pitchers with 6 weeks of spring training ahead to gradually build up their arm strength. Tonight at 10, I'll have a report on one of those pitchers, left-hander Greg Hibbert. Now for more on the Cubs camp, let's go to Mesa, Arizona and join Brad Palmer live. Brad?
Okay, Mark, and the Cubs were in their second day of workouts, and Jim Lefebvre is doing just what you said, bringing his pitchers along slowly. If the Cubs are going to have a good year, they're going to need a good year from Danny Jackson. He came to the team last year as a $2 million free agent, but laid an egg, frankly. He wound up with a record of 1-5 and was on the disabled list twice.
Danny Jackson's ready to pitch. I mean, he feels he's the best shape he's been in years. He's coming back to prove to people he can still pitch. It's just one of those freak years. He's just a great kid. It's not the fact that he doesn't work hard. In fact, if anything, he works too hard.
Well, Danny Jackson told me that he's over his problems, and he thought about retiring at one time.
First off, it's not fair to the team. Secondly, it's not fair to me or my family. And then third, it's not fair to the fans themselves to be able to go out there and to see someone struggle like I had the past 3 years. And I really thought and was thinking of retiring last year.
When did you change your mind, and what changed it?
Well, just talked with my dad and my agent again, and them expressing that, give it one more year.
Well, Jackson was 23-8 at Cincinnati in 1988, but in the 3 years since he's been hurt, he has a combined record of 13-22, but he did say he feels better right now than any time since '88. For the Cubs' sake, let's hope so. And live from Mesa, Brad Palmer, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Jim?
All right, Brad, thank you very much. Looks like he's got the golf shirt on, ready. It's only 4:25 down there. He can probably go out and get 9 holes in. Now to basketball. Last night, the Bulls beat the Atlanta Hawks for their 44th win of the year. Michael Jordan with his second triple-double of the year. Tonight, MJ and the Bulls take on the worst the NBA has to offer. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll have highlights of that epic battle at 10 o'clock. At South Bend, Indiana, second-ranked UCLA against Notre Dame. The Irish trying to get to 500 for the first time all year. LaFonso Ellis with the monster jam. Irish outscored the Bruins 21-4 down the stretch to run away. Now Ellis will come up with a jam at the end of the game, and the fans from Notre Dame break loose in South Bend as they celebrate another huge win over a top-ranked team. Notre Dame is now 12-12 and still have eyes on an NCAA bid. Meanwhile, at Northwestern, the Wildcats stayed close to 20th-ranked Michigan for the first 30 minutes of the game. That's Kip Kirkpatrick with the baskets. The Cats trail late in the second half by only 4. Chris Webber scored 12 of his 14 in the second half, part of a 17-4 Michigan run. And Bill Foster shows his emotion after yet another Wildcat loss. The Cats are 1-12 in the Big Ten. Ouch. Another game in the Big Ten today. Michigan State edged Purdue, Loyola by 4 over Detroit. Third-ranked Kansas snipped Kansas State. It was North Carolina State upsetting fourth-ranked North Carolina, and Arkansas slipped past the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Sad news from the 16th Winter Games. Nicolas Boucheté of Switzerland died today when he veered off the practice course at the speed skiing venue and ran into a snowcat machine that was grooming the race course. Some of those guys get speeds of 120 miles an hour. Meanwhile, American speed skater Kathy Turner of Rochester, New York, won the gold medal in the 500-meter short track race. And the U.S. hockey team's hopes for a bronze medal did not happen this afternoon. Czechoslovakia beat the United States by a count of 6-1. That's our look at sports.
All right, Jim. Thanks very much.
Tonight at 10, why are all those TV cop shows so popular? Media critic Gary Deeb goes behind the scenes for a look at the latest trend in reality-based programming. And that's our news. We'll see you tonight at 10.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, and have a great evening.
Good night.